So, the 2026 Union Budget is out, and it's setting the roadmap for India's economy. But let's be real, beyond all the big numbers and headlines, what you really want to know is, what does this mean for me, for my wallet? Well, let's break it all down.
You know, this budget is really a story of two things. On one hand, you've got this grand long-term vision for the country. And on the other, you have the very real, tangible impacts on your personal finances. So we're going to start with that big picture, and then we'll zoom right in on what it means for you day to day.
First up, let's talk about the long game. The entire budget is really built around this one big idea, Viksit Bharat, a developed India by the year 2047. You can think of this as the North Star that's guiding pretty much every single economic decision being made right now.
And this quote from Prime Minister Narendra Modi really says it all, doesn't it? He's framing this budget not just as a plan for the next 12 months, but as a critical piece of the foundation for that much longer journey towards 2047.
And at the very heart of this grand vision is one massive, clear-cut goal: to make India the world's third largest economy. This is the big ambition, the headline that drives so many of the policies and investments we're about to dive into.
Okay, so you've got this huge vision, right? But any big plan needs some very careful financial management. So let's look at how the government plans to manage the nation's wallet. This is what's known as fiscal discipline, and it's all about balancing the books on a massive national scale. Now, you're going to hear this term, fiscal deficit, thrown around a lot. Don't let it intimidate you. It's actually a pretty simple idea. It's just the gap between what the government earns and what it spends in a year. Just like with your own household budget, a smaller gap is a really good sign of strong financial health for the whole country. So, the magic number they're aiming for is a fiscal deficit of 4.3% of GDP. Now, this isn't just some random number, it's actually continuing a downward trend, which signals a serious commitment to getting the country's finances in order. A lower deficit usually means more stability and less borrowing, which is good for everyone. And this all connects to an even bigger, longer-term goal: getting the country's total debt to GDP ratio down to 50% by 2030-31. Basically, think of it as a national plan to steadily pay down the country's credit card balance over the next several years.
So, the government is being disciplined, it's tightening its belt in some ways, but where is it choosing to spend its money to really kickstart growth? This is where we get to see the strategy for actually building that Viksit Bharat we talked about.
A huge portion of the spending is being poured into infrastructure. We're talking about a massive boost to what's called capital expenditure, jumping up to 12.2 lakh crore rupees. This is the money that builds the physical backbone of our economy: our roads, our railways, our ports, the whole shebang. So where's that cash going exactly? Well, the focus is clearly on future-proofing the economy. We're talking about 7 new high-speed rail corridors, creating strategic corridors for mining rare earth minerals, a huge 10,000 crore push in biopharma, and doubling down on the India semiconductor mission. And on top of all that, there's another 10,000 crore fund to help our small and medium businesses, our MSMEs, grow and succeed.
Okay. We've seen the big national vision, the huge investments. But how does any of this actually hit your bank account? Let's get to the part everyone's been waiting for: your taxes.
All right, let's just get the biggest question out of the way immediately. For most of you who are salaried employees, it's steady as she goes. There have been no changes announced for the personal income tax slabs or for the deductions you can claim.
Now, while your income tax stays the same, there are some really important tweaks elsewhere. If you're planning an overseas trip, good news, the tax collected at source, or TCS, is coming down to 2%. For those of you who trade in the stock market, the tax on futures and options is going up a bit. Company share buybacks, they'll now be taxed as capital gains. And this is a big one. If you're in a dispute with the tax department, the upfront deposit you have to pay has been cut in half, down to just 10%.
And there are a couple of other specific bits of relief. That lower 2% tax rate also applies to money you send abroad for education and medical expenses. And, in a really welcome move, any interest you receive as part of a motor accident claim settlement is now completely tax-free.
So, after all the policies, all the numbers, and all the jargon, what are the most important things you, the average citizen, should really take away from this budget?
Let's just boil it all down. Number 1, overseas travel, education, and medical trips just got a little bit cheaper. Number 2, there's some real financial relief for people in tough spots, like those in tax disputes or dealing with accident claims. Number 3, there's a serious focus on the youth, with investments in new age sectors like gaming and animation. And finally, number 4, that massive push for infrastructure is all about creating more jobs and making daily travel and life better for all of us.
At the end of the day, this budget is trying to walk a very fine line. It's aiming for incredible long-term national growth, but it's also trying to address the financial realities that you and I face every day. So the real question it leaves us with is this: is India striking the right balance to secure its future and yours?